All right, guys, we are live for our third installment of the Discover live events with 196 flavors. Today, we are very excited to have with us Chef Donny, who is our new expert from Laos. We're going to give it about a minute for people to join. But I will remind everybody as you are joining that you can ask your questions throughout the live event, either on Facebook or on YouTube. And we will take those questions as they come in if they are in line with what we're discussing, or we will table them for the end of the live event. So do not hesitate to ask your questions. This is really one of the reasons why we are having live events. So feel free to ask them in the comment section of the Facebook feed or the YouTube feed. We have people joining. As people are joining, for people who are not familiar with the 196 flavors, if you're not, let me just tell you briefly about us. So 196 flavors has been around for almost 9 years now. Actually, we started as a website. We are now present on all the social media channels. And we have the ambition to become the Wikipedia of authentic and traditional recipes from every single country in the world, as well as provide information about food history, pretty much providing the background behind the cuisine of each country in the world, as well as the recipes that are popular in those countries. There's 196 countries. We have traveled virtually throughout the world already. We have close to 1,300 recipes available right now on the website in English, French, as well as Spanish. And we also offer ebooks that you can purchase on our website. We have people joining. Without further ado, first, let me wish a happy Lao New Year to Chef Donny, as well as all of our Lao people on the stream. This is a very exciting time for Laos. This is actually starting today officially for the next 2 days, and we'll talk about this, and we'll talk about the celebrations and obviously all the culture and cuisine associated with the celebration. Without further ado, Chef Donny, if you maybe can introduce yourself.
Spidey, I'm Donny Sirisavath, chef and owner of Khao Noodle Shop here in Dallas, Texas. I'm first generation Lao immigrant from Laos. We've created this restaurant, a passion project, you can say, in correlation with celebrating our culture, our heritage, and that's what Lao cuisine is for us. It's just sharing our food with everybody, bringing everyone together like we are doing today. The noodle shop is just more tapas styles. We've been nationally recognized in 2019, Mercury Restaurant in the nation for Bon Appetit. James Beard's finalist in 2020, and 2020 top 10 best new chef for food and wine. So we're here today to kind of have a conversation about Lao food, Lao cuisine, Lao Ocean cuisine, and with Mike here. And thank you, Mike, for having us. Let's get started.
Excellent. No, thank you so much. It's interesting because when we started discussing a couple of weeks ago, we're like, okay, we need to have this live event to celebrate the new year. It's the perfect timing. So yeah. I'm really glad that you're joining the team. And Chef Donny, like all of our experts, chef on 160 flavors, is actually going to validate all of our research and our recipes, which he already has done. So that you can make sure that all of the recipes and articles that we provide on the website are credible and are really thoroughly researched. Let's talk about Laos. So for people who are not familiar with Laos, I haven't been to Laos myself. I have been to Thailand, but I haven't made it to Laos. But Laos is actually the only landlocked country in Southeast Asia. It shares borders with Thailand, with Cambodia, with China, with Vietnam, with Myanmar. And am I missing any?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. It actually shares the border with Thailand along the Mekong River. There's a lot of different climate and so on. There's some mountains. So when we talk about the cuisines, of course, we're going to talk about the different climates and geographic regions of the country to discuss the different dishes as well as the different ingredients. But one thing I would say is it's interesting because outside of the region, and especially for the Western world, we are not very familiar with Lao cuisine. And obviously, we are all mostly familiar with Thai cuisine. So to put things in perspective, I looked at how big Laos was compared to Thailand. Laos is actually a sixth of Thailand in terms of area, but it's also a tenth of the population of Thailand. It's only 7 million people compared to 70 million people in Thailand. And as we talk about and as we delve deeper into the cuisine of Laos, we will understand why Thai cuisine is so known and so popular. But most of the dishes that we know from Thai cuisine are actually from Lao origin, and we will find out about that. When we talk about Laos, and that's a good segue for Chef Donny to tell us about the difference maybe between Lao and Lao Ocean in English. I'm sure that you have heard both terms, and both are often used interchangeably. But maybe Chef Donny, if you can tell us what is really the difference between Lao and Lao Ocean.
I think for us, Lao Ocean, it was a term that was given to us from the French when French colonized Laos in the 1800s. So for us, it's Lao is the people from Laos. So when we say Lao, it's people of regions are descendant from Lao. So if you live in the States or in Australia or France, you're a Lao people, you're a Lao person. People in Laos itself is Lao Ocean, correct? That's the people that live and resides in Laos. So there's different terms between Lao and Laotians, but there's no wrong or right way of saying it. But just to have more better perspective, I'm from Lao because my ancestors, my parents are from Lao, so I'm a Lao person. Kun Lao means that exactly what translates to Kun is a person, Lao is the nationality. So yeah, that's the basic history of what Laotian and Lao
that's
is.
great. And again, as I was reading about Laos, to put things in perspective, 7 million people, about 53% are from the Lao people originally. But when you look at the Lao people outside of Laos, there's about a population of 200,000 in the US, as well as in Thailand, as well as in France, out of all places. So there are Lao people outside of Laos. The interesting thing too is when you look at Thailand, the northeast region of Thailand, the Isan region, the Isan people are actually Lao people as well. I mean, when you look at it, they're really Lao people. So they share a lot of the same customs and traditions. And there's 22 million Isan people. So much larger population than the Lao people, which also explains why a lot of those dishes, which are from the same origin, have been attributed to Thailand, although they are really Lao dishes.
That's correct. So that's part of what Isan province is. Refugees that escape Laos or moved from Laos itself, and like you said, a lot of influence of Lao influence are immersed into the Thai Isan food that we are known today, and so we share that same aspect of Lao food with combination of what Thai ingredients are from those regions. So that's kind of region specific, especially with the Isan region, which is my dad, he's Thai Isan. So part of me, I'm Thai, Isan, and Lao. My mom is actually Lao and a quarter French. So I'm all the above.
Perfect. So that's actually a good segue to talk briefly. We're not a history channel, but to talk about maybe briefly about the history of Laos and kind of and then that will be a good segue into the influences into the cuisine.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. So that's for us, me personally, I love what Lao food represents, the culture, with Lao food is very unique and very distinct of what it is. We use a lot of spice, a lot of herbs, a lot of freshness. Our foods tend to be a little bit more sour, pungent, salty. Like Thai foods, it leans more on the sweet and savory side. So that's kind of the main difference of what Laotian cuisine is. But then also it's about bringing people together. That's part of why Lao food is that family culture, friend food, where you just bring friends together and talk about something, regardless of what it is, have a drink, and just simple life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one thing that, so talking about the, starting to talking about the cuisine or the different ingredients, one thing that I wanted to mention is, as we talked again about the origin of some of the dishes, there are three very, very popular dishes that we know of in the Western world, again, outside of the Southeast Asian region, which again have been, in our mind, attributed to Thai cuisine. And I'm going to talk about three of them that are definitely Lao. One is larb, which is, and you'll talk probably about that in more detail, but which is a meat salad, either raw or cooked, of ground beef typically. So we'll talk about that a little more. Papaya salad is actually of Lao origin as well. In Laos, it's called, I'm going to try to pronounce it correctly, Tam Mak Hong.
Yeah,
It's really Samtam.
Yeah. Yep.
It's really Samtam. It's more known as Samtam. But the interesting thing is papaya salad. We know it as unwrapped papaya salad, but there's a lot of variations. And initially, it was not even made with papaya. I think it was made with mango and other ingredients.
Yep.
And then the main one that I know that Laos is the country where we eat the most sticky rice. Again, I'm going to try to pronounce it. Khao Noodle.
Khao Noodle, yeah.
So that's sticky rice in Laos, and Laos is the country where people eat the most sticky rice, and it actually comes from there. So those, I would say, are probably like more the national known across the country. But let's talk about some of those dishes and maybe talk about the differences in the regions, the regional cuisines. If you can tell us about that, Chef Donny.
So Lap. We'll start with Lap. So Lap is like the national dish of Laos. There's different forms like we just talked about. There's you can do with fish. What we use is called goi pa, which is a kind of like our ceviche, correct? Of Lap. So different regions depending on like northern, central, or southern region. With Lap being a meat protein, northern regions tend to not have too much protein, so they use a lot of herbs, a lot of vegetable. So sometimes you do have like lap mushroom, like lap head. So that's something that it's regional specific because with not having enough proteins. But then also with fish, with the Mekong River there, so you have a lot of lap pa or goi pa in those regions. Central, it's more of that more of the city establishment where you can get your proteins easily, pork, chicken, beef. So it becomes that central region of what lap is. Lap blood. When we do lap blood, that's kind of like a fresh kill, right? So it has blood, has your offals from the beef or the pork that you use, or even the chicken sometimes. So that's something that's very unique to that region. Most of the time, Lao food is just all about freshness. Depending on the protein you have, the produce you have, everything's used to be fresh in Lao food, especially Lao. And that's what reason why Lao became about, because it's about slaughtering a animal and making it fresh that day. So then that's what you have for that day. That's the reason why it's used a lot of acidity to kill out bacteria, parasites, and so on and so forth. When you go to southern region with Paksay, region, and their lab is similar to what regular lab in the north or central, but like I said, it's catered to that region specific of what they have available for them. And a lot of central, it's well known for a lot of fish and as well too a lot of river. I guess you can say it's like not seafood, but river fish, river food. So algae, kaipan, up north as well too, and then Prabang. All in all, they all share the same type of lab in different regions. Then of course, tamahung. Tamahung means like just pestle mortar. That's what we usually use to smash ingredients to combine them together. So it's very regional specific, like we just talked about. So sometimes, papaya, it's the unripe papaya that's green. In some regions, we don't have papaya, so we have to use mango, carrots. Some region use, noodles. Like that's the noodles, like vermicelli noodle that was brought by other colonizing visitors of Laos. The vermicelli noodles was brought from the European side. and then also with China. So then you have this like tam kapun, which is the vermicelli noodles as well.
I've also seen versions with unripe bananas, I think, as well.
Yeah, unwrapped bananas, banana blossoms. That's something that is used quite a bit. So that's the thing. It's all depending on what you have around you. That's what a lot of people do, is use what ingredients they can use around them on the farm, on the land. Literally just foraging off the land. That's what Lao food is. It's using freshness.
To put things in perspective for people, I mean, we don't have an image next time, but I wanted to tell for people who are not familiar with the country itself. So it's actually very similar in size to Italy. It's slightly small. It kind of looks like Italy, as the boot pretty much, except that the top part is wider. So when we talk about the three regions, the three regional cuisines, just for people to visualize, Vientiane, the capital, is actually on the southern part of the top.
That's the closest, closest to Thailand, the Mong Khai region.
And on the Mekong River, right?
Yeah, correct.
And then Luang Prabang, which used to be the capital, is actually in the middle of this top part.
Correct.
So that would be the northern region cuisine. Vientiane would be more central. And then when we talk about
Paksay,
Paksay is in the southern tip of the boot, if you will.
Correct. But we have 17 provinces in Laos alone. We're descendant of the Thai people, right? So Thai is back in it's like we're not a history lesson, but back in the days, that's what our people are. We are Thai people. But then you have Thai Nuat, Thai Dan, it's all different type of people that live in Laos itself. But in general, we're all Khon Lao, right? So we like Hmong. Hmong is a very well-known ethnicity within the Lao country, which is the northern country, whereas the very tip of Laos, where it's more of a Chinese influence. The language is very different. But then again, like every region, every northern, southern, central region, their dialects are different. The language are a little different. So then the foods are just a little different, but it's used the ingredients within that region. Like the northern region of the Hmong, there's a lot of Chinese spices that are influenced in there. A lot of fermenting, like soybean. That's where we get that funk. That's like khao soy. And and then we go back to the whole thing about Khon Lao. We are together with eating sticky rice. That's what brings us together as a whole, as a country. We love sticky rice, and sticky rice is a product of Lao. When you say you're churning up the corn, we're churning up sticky rice, right? So that's the thing. Sticky rice is our bread. It's our carbohydrate that we eat to fulfill our hunger. Even though Laos still is a third world country, a poor country, that's what a carbohydrate that fills us. And it's not hard to get. We can grow that in the backyard. Wash it, steam it, and you can make anything out of it. You can make toast. You can use it for curing. That's one thing that different regions use for curing, like to do pickles, to cure meats. Since there's a lot of refrigeration in those northern region, southern region, so something has to be cured for the next season, because every food is seasonal as well too. So.
And sticky rice is also used in a raw form, toasted and ground in lab, for example, but also in other sauces to thicken the sauces.
And that's part of what Khao Noodle Shop is. Khao means rice, so noodles. So it's rice noodles. So that's really when you look at what khao is, people are like, I never knew that. Khao means rice. So when you look at it, our noodles are made from rice. It's rice protein that's been floured and broken down to where it becomes a flour form, and that's what we use for our noodles.
Yep. And talking about staples and kind of your carbohydrate, obviously sticky rice is used across the country. Yeah. However, when we're talking about central region cuisine, especially in Vientiane, baguette has made its appearance with the French, influence, of course. So can you talk about this, and maybe you guys also have the equivalent of banh mi in Laos?
Yeah, so the baguette was the best form of bread that's made from the French and actually left behind for us to use. So our sandwich is called khao ji pate, right? Khao ji is the rice. I mean, it's the bread, khao ji. So pate is the pate that we use. Same thing from French. So that's what we call when you say khao pate, or like the banh mi of the Vietnamese sandwich. But then each region has its own. We have the northern region that then use like shredded pork floss from jerkies that they just floss up, put in the middle with egg with different fresh herbs and ingredients. Central region does a similar version of what you can find in Vietnam with your head cheese, your ham, fresh vegetable as well, pickled daikon, pickled carrots, and cilantro, jalapenos, or any pepper that's in a region. The same thing with South region, but then the South uses it like to dip into stews and curries as well too. That's part of why baguette is so popular in Laos as well. Just as popular as almost as popular as our cigarettes, but not quite. But this is something that we enjoy, and utilizing what was influenced from the French and using it part of our food culture. And to this day, we still use it.
I didn't realize it was actually used across the country. I thought it was more regional, but it's funny. Like every time you mention about a different dish, it looks like the dish is really national, except there's variations of the exact same dish across the region.
Yep.
So it's not so much like there's a dish that is specific to the region and not really known outside. It's just a variation of it that is more popular outside of it.
It's just traveling. When you travel, you just tend to take things with you, and that's the thing with a lot of people or anyone. We go on a road trip, right? You always bring food with you. So back in the days, that's exactly what it was. You have to bring something that's comforting for you from home. The French. So that's something that was comforting for them to bring with them. It's like I feel like home. At least I have my baguette with me. And same thing when they were the French was traveling throughout Laos. That was left there, like, hey, here, like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's a baguette. So it just kind of traveled throughout all Laos. That's the reason why there's different variation of that.
Perfect. We're going to take a small pause to look at some of the questions that just came in. Again, please send us your questions for Chef Donny. We'll make sure to answer them during the event. So I have a question from Hélène. So Hélène is asking, I have watched some videos of Chef Donny, and I would like to know what his course of study is to become a chef.
Oh, this is the fun question, right? Because I don't have any kind of form of training. My training is all through learning from my grandma as a young child. Most of it is just home cooking. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she cooked at home for the family. But also that's her form of making money for the family as well too. So I immersed myself at home, cooking with her as a young child. 3 years old, just pestle motor, like just throwing everything in the pestle, just smashing everything at 3 years old. And then my mom had the opportunity to open a restaurant in San Antonio, Texas, where it was a Chinese restaurant, kind of just more like a playground, being a kid. I just kind of got intrigued in cooking more and more after each restaurant that she opened. She opened another Thai Chinese restaurant, and eventually a Thai restaurant that has a little bit of what Thai cuisine was. Because that's something that a lot of Thai restaurants to this day were run and operated by Lao people. So we kind of had to cook Thai food to be able to make money, because that's something that people knew. We couldn't cook Lao food because no one knew what Laos.
No one would look for Lao food. They would only look for Thai.
So my training is all through my mom, cooking my mom's restaurant, cooking my kitchen. She's my true inspiration, and that's the reason why I've opened this restaurant, to keep that memory alive of her and the culture.
Perfect. No, great. Thanks for sharing. We have a couple of messages saying Happy New Year. So from David, from
Pi
Mai. All right. Question from Jay. In Thai cooking, one finds the Masaman curries, so named for their Muslim heritage, actually Indian. Does Laos have similar turmeric-themed curry sauces?
Yeah. So that's about Asia, right? Asia has a lot of spices that was actually brought from India, Pakistan, Morocco, Central Morocco, Middle Eastern spices. So yeah, so a dish that we actually eat is gang curry. It's actually translation is curry, gang curry, right? So that's one of the dishes that we actually use turmeric in. It's actually a curry that's with chicken. It's almost like a masaman curry as well too. But we do we add more of a Lao herb, which is bai which is or makut or kaffir leaf. So it's the lime leaf that we use in our curry or our curry. That's that loudness that is in that dish, like lemongrass and so forth. But also, we use it as like our satay. Satay is a well-known Thai dish as well too. Lao dish as well. Malaysian, Indonesian dish. So satay was that that dish that we use all across the board with turmeric in it.
So what is your take on satay beside the peanut? You add turmeric as well?
Yes, so turmeric, and then also, like I said, I'll use lemongrass as well. So it's mainly two, 3 spices: lemongrass, Baking and then turmeric as my main seasoning, dry seasoning for my satay.
Got it. All right. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
So again, feel free to. We have a lot of comments, but and Chef Donny can see them. But feel free to ask questions again as we discuss the different regional cuisines as well as dishes from the country. Let's talk about maybe some of the dishes we haven't talked about yet. I want to talk about the. So again, pardon my my accent, and I'm trying to find the exact name, but the spicy dips or the spicy sauces. And there's a lot of variations of it. Jiao
Jail. Yeah. So jails are that's one dish that should be a national dish as well, because we're known for jails. Going back, sitting down and talking about why Lao food is unique and different in its own way is because of that. Gels are something we eat with sticky rice, khao noodle, and that's what khao noodle becomes, that main dish. And gels are like little side dipping sauce. Every country has its own dipping sauce. We have like tons of gels from gel. So you have like tomato gel, you have eggplant gel, you have fish gels, you have chili paste gel, jabong. So these are variation of different region as well too, going from the north to south. So there's a different variation. So like jabong and
most of them very spicy, or
yes, and that's one thing that Lao food is as well. It's known for being very spicy. A lot of people think Thai food it's spicy. Well, Lao food is just as spicy. We tend to eat a lot of peppers with a lot of dishes that we eat, and the gels are part of the main basis of gel. It's peppers, garlic, and onions or shallots, right? That's the main component of gel. And then of course fermented fish sauce that we use in pretty much all the gels we can use. But there's so many variations of gels that we can make and eat with anything. And then we eat with fresh herbs and produce, dip with our sticky rice, with eggs and so forth. So that's the reason why our food is that unique, because we have a soup dish, a stew, a gel, a sticky rice, maybe egg omelet, like sakal, like grilled Lao sausage or saua. That's very different and normal sausage that you eat anywhere.
So those dipping sauces, you mentioned that you have it with sticky rice. You also use it in soups or stews, or do you have it? Yeah. So you would add it at the end of cooking, or
yes. So that's the thing with sticky rice. It's it's a starch. That's something that we use to thicken our sauce or thicken our stews. That's pretty much what we do is soak the rice, pound it, and then pass some more coke inside, and then we finish off in the stew or soup we use it to create that the stewiness, that thickness of a stew. And then of course, like using for fermentation, sticky rice is like very versatile in what we use it into. Fermentation, like sometimes you use like saua, so it's a sour cured pork sausage, right? So the curing effect is in the sticky rice. That's what creates that sourness that when you have in a Lao sausage as well too. So you leave it outside in the sun, let it cure, let the whole natural state of the rice, the glutinous sticky rice, to starch to create this sour notes from garlic, lemongrass, and the pork as well too. So sticky rice is just used for pretty much anything, everything. You want to use it for face cream, you can use it for face cream.
I mean, even for desserts as well. I mean, personally, I love mango and sticky rice, which I don't know if it's originally Thai or Lao. Maybe you can tell us, but mango and sticky rice, is that something that originated in Laos?
It's a kind of like a hybrid. I think it's more like an Isan thing, because like say with Lao being landlocked country, we don't have a lot of tropical fruits. We do, but it's not as much as what Thai is. And then of course coconut, right? Coconut, something that's really in the Pacific and Thailand and Vietnam. So it was that dish that was like, hey, look, the sticky rice, can we make something out of it? It's dessert, so this came about. So yeah, it is a dish of both countries. Say one or the other.
Got it. Jay had a comment about when we talk about satay. So the traditional thinking is that satay, the word itself, may have come from the word steak. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know that.
A steak, yeah. Satay, yeah. So it's usually a meat on a stick. That's
a meat on a stick, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question from Jules. What would be the main staple ingredient for use in cooking Lao cuisine? I am in the UK, so might have to substitute.
See, ingredients for use in cooking Lao. Oh, so for us,
besides sticky rice,
well, fish sauce. Fish sauce is well known in our culinary culture. That's something that we use abundance of in everything we make. That's the umami of what Lao food is, right? We don't have much seasoning, so that's something with the fermentation with the rice, again, sticky rice, or the rice bran of the rice. So it's the husk of the rice that creates this fermentation for fish. So catching fish from the river, that's something that we have to do to preserve that. And in order for us to preserve something, that's how it's cured, fermented. So fish sauce came about, and that's something that we use on pretty much almost anything, everything. Stews, soups. You want to do egg omelet? That's our main ingredients in Lao Ocean food. Substitute wise, it's hard to find a substitute for fish sauce. But then there's you're starting to be able to find fermentation of like pineapples that mimics flavor and smell like fish sauce. It's that pungentness that you can have remnants of what the fish sauce is. So if there's just something that's close to that, a substitute, that would be it. And of course, there's other sticky rice. There's Japanese sticky rice that's probably in majority of stores, even in UK. So for us, Lao sticky rice is very unique. It's a little bit longer grain than a Japanese short grain sticky rice.
Got it. Another ingredient that I saw, which I don't know if it's used as much, but is that brine crab? I think I've seen it in some sauces, and I don't know if it's prevalent in Laos or not.
You say brine crab?
Brine crab. Like as an addition to fermented fish sauce, it adds this kind of umami.
And that one's actually harder to get or hard to find, but that's something that is a substitute of what you can find as far as anchovies, fish sauce. But there's different variation with fish sauces, and also shrimp paste. Shrimp paste is something that's a variation of what, but then it becomes a paste, and you don't have to use as much, and gives this very, fragrant, like very pungent fragrance to it. But it creates this nice umami, silky umami flavor, and a lot of dishes as we use as well too. So that's an alternative that we can use. But yeah, the crab fish sauce, that's hard to define. Yeah.
Got it. So let's talk maybe about some of the other dishes and some of the other ingredients. So personally, some of the dishes that I love making myself, one of them, and was a discovery for me, was khao pun. And one ingredient that I discovered with that recipe was banana flour. So maybe can you tell us about khao pun, but specifically about banana flour, which is probably not as usual of an ingredient for most of the outside world.
Definitely. So kapun. Kapun is that's a dish that shares remnants in every Asian culture. You have laksa in Malay. So that's something that we've created in our country, which is kapun. Kapun's relates to more of the freshness of the noodle. So it's fermented rice noodle from Khao Noodle. So this is the fermented vermicelli noodle that we use in Korea. It's pounded, it's pounded and then it's cooked and then pounded again. It's a tedious process, and then it's dripped like a spaghetti noodle, right? Like angel hair for spaghetti noodles. So that's the main thing about kapun. It has to have that freshness of vermicelli noodles. And then the broth, the broth is, a curry based broth. When we say curry, we just mean that we're using, spices that's in the region, Galangal, ginger, kaffir, lime leaf, peppers. And that's what the base of what the curry is, the kapun. And once you get all that pounded off, and then you can make it in any way, any shape or form. But the original way was just making stock, using that to make stock from proteins, chicken, pork, beef, but then we use the whole animal. So all the offals, all the innards, and we use that. So we call it kapun, nam jim. So that's pretty much what the kapun nam jim comes from. That's the original kapun. But then we were introduced with coconut milk from Thailand. So then your kapun now has this coconutty nuttiness to it now, where it was already good, but it just like evolved, got better. And that's what our kapun in, and then utilizing fresh herbs and spices, like say putting mint, the fresh bamboo that's been foraged around the region, and then of course finish off with banana blossom. So banana blossom is this purple looking like corn, almost like a corn husk, right? It looks almost like corn. You can kind of peel the leaves off, and there's these little blossoms inside those little cocoon on this banana blossom. So when you ever see a banana blossom, it literally actually blossom up, and you see all these little blossom on it. So we use the unblossomed banana blossom. So we cut it real thin. It's purple and has this it's like creaminess from the blossom, but then this crunchiness from the outer shell. It's very interesting, but then it's just flavorful, and it just creates another depth of flavor and texture in kapun.
It's really good for people who have never used it. It kind of looks like soybeans sprouts, kind of. If you had to,
yeah,
but
inside of it,
different in terms of
it's amazing. It's amazing ingredients that like I said, just utilizing. That's the thing about Lao food, just utilizing what we have around us. Same thing for my parents. That's the reason why I've hold Lao food to my heart, because I grew up. I'm American born, but my parents and my mom and dad came to the United States, and in 1978. A couple of years later, and they had me. So, but I grew up in a refugee community and immigrant. So I felt like I was an immigrant myself. And my mom taught me how to, forage, live off your land. We had chicken in the backyard, we had ducks. So, I've led my first chicken at 7 years old, like kill my pet. But, that's the thing about Lao food. It's, we learn to adapt. We learn how to utilize ingredients around us, even though we live in our states. So, and, utilizing and foraging in the forest, grabbing snails, bamboo, mushrooms, you name it. That's what our parents had to do living here in America.
Perfect. We talked about ginger in Galangal. So there's a question from Jules. Is ginger okay as a substitute for Galangal?
To a certain extent. Ginger has a remnants of what Galangal is, which is the spicy notes of Galangal. Galangal is more of a bark. It's a big hard root. In order for you to extract that flavor, you have to pound it into a motor pestle, blend it out, or steep it. So you have to put in a stew and let it cook down gradually, or blend it up and pound it, and that's where you extract that earthy, spiciness from Galangal. But yeah, ginger is a good substitute. You might have to use more ginger to substitute the spiciness from what Galanga is. Like I say, it's more bark, more fiberish, so it doesn't break down as much. But yeah, that's a good substitute.
I have to say, I mean, obviously, I live in a big city, but Galangal can be found more and more easily nowadays. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the case in every city, but I know in Los Angeles it's fairly easy to find it even fresh. But at the minimum, you can find it sometimes pre-sliced in the frozen section.
Yep, and yeah, that's one great thing about Kalanga. It holds well in the freezer. That's what my mom, because it's seasonal and it takes at least 3 years to grow. So that's the thing. Yeah, so that's the thing with Kalanga. So a lot of times my mom just slice it or keep it whole, vacuum seal it and put it in the freezer and use it whenever she needs to. And that's perfect way to use that ingredients as well too.
I do the same with lemongrass. I mean, you can, especially because a lot of recipes ask for chopped lemongrass a lot of times. So you can buy, pre-chopped lemongrass frozen and just use whatever you need.
Yeah, that's lemongrass, kaffir, which is Baguette, Kalanga. Those hold so well in a freezer.
Kaffir lime leaves. I'm not as I don't know. The leaves usually. I mean, I don't know. I prefer fresh.
Yeah.
If I don't have a choice,
you can freeze them. You can freeze them. Yep. The thing is, you have to freeze them when it's fresh. You don't.
When it's fresh, yeah.
Yep. And it's airtight bag. It's not as good as when it's fresh, but just good enough.
Got it. We have a question from Helen. So Laos has no coast by the sea; it's a landlocked country, as we mentioned. She wanted to know if you cook seafood or sea fish. We talked about river fish, but what else?
Yeah, so the thing with Laos, we use a lot of river fish. There's river prawns that we get quite a bit. Have you ever been to Thailand or Laos? These prawns are massive. They're like size of your hand. They look like baby lobster, sometimes. But the thing is, so just not thinking that everything is seafood. There is a lot of crustacean and rivers, snails, river fish, river eels. So there's different abundance of what river food, I say seafood, river food that we can get from, and a substitute for what seafood that because we're a landlocked country. But now with the trades from Vietnam to Cambodia to Thailand, there is seafood that's brought in to Laos. But in our culture, in my culture, we do eat a lot of seafood and a lot of river food, a lot of fish, really a lot of fish. Growing up, my mom and dad, we always go to the lake fish, catch fresh fish, go and snail. My wife, parents used to go to the lake beds and banks and just off to the side, pulling up snails. So it's like fresh escargot. I'm like, yeah. So that's something that we utilize in our surrounding. Where you don't think there's food, then most likely there's food and there's something there to eat. So you can't.
Yes. I think there is. I don't know if there's an equivalent. I think there is, but maybe not the same name as amok tre in Cambodia. I think there is an equivalent in Laos, right? Is it the same name or?
It's no, it's just a little different.
But it's also like you have a similar version, right, with fish cooked and presented in the banana leaves and
because it's similar, but ours like mok is what we steam in the banana leaf, like mokba. That's what we call it, and it's the steam in banana leaf, and then with a lot of fresh herb, dill, bai magud, lime leaf, lemongrass, and that's something that you can do anytime. Break down your fish, steam it in a banana leaf, and you're good to go.
Perfect. Helen, I had a follow-up question. Do you cook frogs like in
Yeah.
You do?
So that's the other thing too. We do cook frog. That's in Lao food. We eat anything and everything. As long as it's edible, we'll cook it and eat it.
So that's actually a good segue, because as I was talking to my assistant, Nicole, who is based in the UK but has lived in Thailand and went to Laos, she mentioned something about the fact that she went, a lot of times she went to market, especially very early in the morning, and people would bring a lot of creatures from the forest, the jungle, that maybe obviously we would not know about in the Western world, but Can you talk about this, like all the different creatures? You mentioned a few already, but some of the other creatures that we may not know of, or we would not think about eating or cooking.
Snake, one of the things are snakes, right? There's different types of reptiles that is being eaten. But the thing is that the reason why creatures are brought from these jungles and forests because we're growing, a country that's growing, right? A lot of people that are coming from different countries, China and whatnot too, because Laos is a small landlocked country. We can't produce cows, we can't produce pork and chicken like another country. So sometimes what happens is we're overeating, right? Because tourists are coming in, so we have to sell or get different proteins to sell in the stores or sell to the markets. So I think that's kind of a misconception of why we eat this type of thing. It's really because we don't have anything else to eat. There's been plenty of times where the rivers are dried up with no fish or anything to eat. So what you have to do is kind of forage and figure things out and trying to live off the reason why I'm not against it, but the thing is they have to survive, they have to eat what they have to eat, but bringing into the market they also have to make money to survive.
Yes, sir.
But the thing is people thinking that these rare animals or these unknown creatures are exotic. I think that's the thing is it shouldn't be exotic. They're meant to be left alone. Let's not extinct these animals from the land, of course. Sorry.
Makes sense. It's not specific to Laos, of course. We have a question from Frederic Premier. My favorite dish while traveling in Laos was these hearty soups you can find in the streets. What makes them so flavorful?
Different types of soups. If you want to talk about any kind of noodle soup, like Baguette, Khao soy, we have our tradition of and really what creates these soups that gives this aromatic, just like the funkiness with Khao soy, right? So Khao soy is actually fermented soybean, and that's what gives you that pungent, that flavor in that dish. That's the reason why Khao soy is unique and region Pacific. So like your Thai Khao soy is more curry, masman way, right? But then in northern Laos, it's actually the same word, but it's actually made totally different. But the thing is, why soups are good is because the ingredients, the herbs that we use, like the 3 herbs that we use, kafir, kihun, galangal, and lemongrass. That's the main herbs that creates these awesome broths. And that's really what the main ingredients in most of our soup that we use. And that's all we need, and then of course with protein, with fresh protein. That's the thing in every Southeast Asian countries. Proteins are part of the best because they use it fresh. When we're in a bigger country in the States and we can buy chicken from the stores and they're actually from a big slaughterhouse with these chickens, pork. They're grown in that Pacific region and only 1 or 2 growers or farmers have these animals, and they're killed and slaughtered every single day, fresh. And that's part of the reason why some of these soups are very flavorful, because the freshness of the ingredients that we use.
Got it. Makes all the difference. Another question from Frederic Premier. As China is currently building a massive road straight from southern China into Laos, how does Chef Donny see the potential, positive or negative, impact on local Laotian foods and tastes?
It's gonna be that's a conversation that we as Lao community all talk about. The landscape of Laos is changing, right? People are seeing this unknown country, third world country that they can invest into to make profit. In the day, it's all about profit, right? They're not helping us as much as they think they are. Anything, they're hurting us as a country because you're not supplying these jobs within the people of the country, and you're bringing people from your country to build these roads. That's the main negative side of it. The upside is that it's bringing traffic flow into Laos so people can experience what Lao Ocean cuisine is. Laotian culture. But that being said, we might have to where it's a dog eat dog kind of world, because a lot of these villagers are getting run out of their towns because they've had to build these streets. So now they have to fight for survival. Someone's making something the same way of this person. Guess what? They have to fight for it. They have to fight to get these business to stay alive and to survive and feed their family. So yeah, it's more negative than it is positive for me personally. But for me, if we can work with the Chinese government, Lao government, and letting everyone know, like, look, we can both help each other by growing this project in a opposite on a positive way, where you create jobs for our people, versus you bring your people in and they're making money and our people are sacrificing or are not making money and starving and running, villagers out there own villages in town. But yeah, so that's the thing for me. And also with the when come talking about food and taste, the food will change. The taste will change. I've experienced this myself. I've been to Thailand many of times. I've been to Thailand more than I have been Laos, just because Laos wasn't really open as much back in when I was younger. But Thailand is the same way now. Bangkok, I've been to Thailand probably 20 times now. But Bangkok, every year I go to Bangkok, the flavoring of the food there changes. Why? It's because they're catering towards the foreigners and that travel there. And that's what I see. And I think that's what's going to happen with this whole thing with immigrants or Chinese coming in or tourists coming in. The flavor profile changes to adapt to the foreigners or the tourists. And that's exactly what Bangkok happened, because now you don't have that richness that tastes like you used to in Bangkok. Now you can find those outside the city, like in the small towns where my aunt or my family is. Like you go down the street, the noodle cart lady. That's like, wow, this is what I miss in Bangkok. It's still,
I mean, at the end of the day, whether it's in Bangkok or any other place, you mentioned it also for the US, like it comes down to business. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to cater to the local population
exactly.
to stay in business. So
sorry to get away on that, but yeah.
But one thing we didn't really talk too much about talking about China is obviously some of the Chinese influence into Lao food. I can mention drunken noodles, which is originally like of Chinese origin. But are there any other staple dishes in Laos that are pretty popular that are of Chinese origin?
Yeah, like you need stir fry. Stir fry, the wok fry. That's something that we learned from China, Chinese culture. And anything that's stir fried, most likely it came from China, right? We immerse ourselves in that. They brought that to us, wok frying, the hot wok frying, fried rice. That's that's something that brought over from the Chinese. Anything like saying, with the noodles, kind of like the pad thais and like kuo mi, like that's really what a noodle dish that we kind of evolved from what we learned from Chinese visitors that we're influenced by. But yeah, that's and then like I said with the khao soy, and there's some northern region that's more Chinese, like some of the jails, right? Some of those jails use Szechuan peppercorns that you can. That's region specific to China that was brought over to Laos. So that northern region, when you do jails, there's a lot of Szechuan peppercorns in these jails. Now we see all this influx and tourism from China. See duck, Peking duck, roasted ducks. So that's something
hasn't really been popular in Laos.
Yeah, duck is like it's popular in the States because we can get them easily. Chicken is more of a bird animal that we utilize in Thailand more.
Got it. All right, we're almost coming up to the hour. We'll maybe stick around for another minute or so if there's any additional questions for Chef Donny. Again, thank you so much, Chef Donny, for doing this interview and discussion with us, but also welcome to the family of 196
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Happy New Year again to you and the Laotian community. If there's no other question, we will post this recording on Facebook as well as YouTube, so you will be able to see it again shortly. We thank everyone for attending today. Happy New Year. Any parting comment from you, Chef Donny?
I just just please support every Asian community right now. We're going through a tough time in the States right now, everywhere in America and the world. But we're all human beings. We're different nationality, but we're just all human beings. I just want everyone to please to be on the watch out for Asians and in general, especially in the United States. Stop hate. In general, for me personally. But yeah, this is our New Year. It's our Pi Mai. So the thing is, for us, we like to celebrate the New Year and giving back by doing water. We do the same thing at Songkran Water Festival. Is to wash away our past, right, and start fresh. One thing that we usually do at our home is start with our elders, our parents, our grandparents. We usually to have a water to kind of pour water in the hand, ask for forgiveness, bless us with good health and good fortune. But really just thanking them and being our parents and being our mentors in life, and being us, grounding us to our roots. And that's one reason why New Year's is very special to us. And we just celebrate and just have fun, just let loose, forget everything that happened the past year, start out a new good year.
Perfect. We're always up for a celebration on the 160th service. So Happy New Year to you. Obviously, it's all about food too. So I'm sure you'll be catering and also eating.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So have a great celebration. Thanks again, Chef Donny, to everyone, and we'll see you next time for another event. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.